I think the number one reason that most people face objections or cannot overcome them, it doesn't really have to do with their level of skill sometimes. It actually has to do with the level of like confidence they have to just be direct and face the problems of potentially getting a bad answer. And if we deep down think about it, a lot of people are just not, they know the questions to ask. They just don't, they're just uncomfortable going there because they're like, the person could just be like, yeah, I'm not interested. This wasn't relevant to me. See you later. Now the deal dies. But if you don't ask those questions, you have a imaginary hope that something can happen. And I just don't want imaginary hope. I want to know like this is going to close or it's not because I don't want to have an imaginary hope conversation with my manager on a one-on-one. I want to be like, this is exactly what's happening. This is what's not happening. And here's what I'm going to do. So by asking those direct questions really help you. I've actually found that I read this book called Question-Based Selling. So a lot of the way that I sell is based on that book. And it talks about how when you go and ask a question, you want to have something called a humble disclaimer. And that diffuses the hard question you're going to ask so people don't feel like it's super aggressive. So an example of that would be like, hey, I know this is like a super odd question, but like, what is the reason that you don't want to you want to meet in 6 months instead of now? Like, what's going to happen between now and then? So now I'm trying to diffuse like why they pushed me out 6 months. Or another thing you could do is like people at the end of the day are always going to ask you for price, but sometimes they may not bring it up. So I might be like, hey, this is the really awkward part of the conversation where I got to bring up price. So like, here's how I bring up price. So you can always add that humble disclaimer in the beginning and then answer literally and ask any question you want because it's going to diffuse the situation. So that's like how I think about handling objections is I know something's happening. I need to get to the root of it. If they don't want to meet with me for a next step on a call, that means that something's wrong and they have concerns. So I'm going to be like, hey, I know this is a really odd question, but like transparently, do you have any concerns about what I just said? Because like if there's concerns, I'll answer them right now. Because typically when people tell me they don't want to set a next step, they're just not interested in what I had to say. So now we can just suss it out right there. And so those are the ways I think about objections is that like I'm not trying to play any games with anyone to respect your time. And I'm going to be direct as I can with my humble disclaimers.